Welcome home, all. Welcome off for a couple weeks there. Welcome back. It was roughly 2 weeks. We weren't on at all last week. That was more my fault than anything else, and then a scheduling discrepancy on mine. So first things first, tonight. So we're on tonight, obviously on the Tuesday. We will be on tomorrow, not the Thursday. And I mentioned this, I want to say 3-4 weeks ago, about a month ago, or I've got a meeting now on the Thursday with the Veterans Day group that I am in and that I don't want to alter or change. And it's roughly right around this time. So I can't tinker with it. So just on the third Thursday of a month, we'll be doing the Tuesday, Wednesday. and then kind of go from there. But still want roughly, twice a week, middle of the week, and then we go off into the weekend. So again, tonight and then tomorrow we'll be on same time, 6:30 on a Wednesday, not the Thursday. Okay. And then I think what I'll do this time is after I'm done with this meeting on the Thursday with our Veterans Day Parade group, I will come back the following week and then I will share what I am doing or what my involvement is with the Veterans Day Parade of Central California, Central Valley Veterans Day Parade officially now, and kind of use this particular microphone / platform to kind of talk about and spend a little bit of time on what I'm doing with and for the Veterans Day Parade in our area. And I'm looking forward to it. I've dove in with, just full and ready to go and want to see some cool things done that maybe have not been done before. Why do anything, right? If you're going to do it to make it more. Do it to make it better than when you got there, right? So if I do this for a year or two and give my energy and time to veterans for our region, Central California, I want the Veterans Day Parade to be the best that it possibly can be and to be the biggest, best parade, again, not just, for our region, but, on the entire West Coast, all the Western United States, and make it singularly unique, different, and something that is desired or desirable to want to see and be at and give some attention to. Obviously, worthy cause, that's the simple part. But worthy causes are worthy causes. There's a lot of them. And I have no misgivings or no misunderstandings about, I am a veteran, but I also know that doesn't mean that, everybody on the planet is going to turn in just because I'm a vet or there are veterans there. I know that. You have to go beyond that. You will get people. There are Americans that still value veterans, that actually give a shit about veterans, that care about veterans and what they do and the things that they're involved with. And then there are a lot that don't. They may say they do, but a lot of them don't. And some just don't even give a shit at all. So how do we reach that larger number? How do we pull more people in to share in appreciation? And again, not for me, but for those that came before me, the veterans that gave their lives for this country, that if not gave their lives, then gave their lives, meaning in mortality, like they died for it, but just have given their lives. I mean, when I say gave their lives, I mean people that have done 25 years, and retired, literally gave their entire adult life to their country. That's what I mean by giving the life, right? Not just life and death, but also giving of yourself, giving who you are, your adulthood, your career, your entire adulthood, early into middle age, your best years of physical and mental capability, you give it to your country. That's what I mean by giving the life. All right. And I'll say that I didn't do that. I didn't do 20 years. I did a little over 3. And my 3, a little over 3 were good years, awesome years for me and for those that I served with and for. But I have no, again, misunderstandings about what it is to give 20, 25, 30 years. That's on another level for me. So when I say I'm serving or doing something for a Veterans Day Parade or Veterans Day Parade Committee, that is not for self. It is for those that came before me and those that have done more. And you'll find that most veterans think that way. We're not trying to get something for ourselves. We're trying to do some things for the ones that came before us that did the good stuff so that we can be here. Okay, so enough on that. But I'll update. And then as we get down the stretch, I'll update maybe weekly on what's going on with Veterans Day Parade. And maybe I'll go a step further. And for those of you out there that watch and listen, to maybe get you involved or engaged in finding out or figuring out how you can help maybe with the Veterans Day Parade. It isn't as simple, or it isn't as I say complicated as it might seem, or you might think. It's actually pretty easy. I mean, helping can be something as simple as watching the live stream, or coming to the parade and watching the parade go by, right? Or again, watching a live stream, because we're going to have that component in partnership with the CMAC, the organization and group that we broadcast from here. We're going to have all that capability. And if you just shared and streamed, liked, etc., subscribe to my channel, help out CMAC. If you do that, that's all helping. It's not costing you anything. It's a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, a little bit of appreciation for Veterans Day, right? Really cool. So I love doing that, because I make it possible for regular people to understand that it doesn't take a lot out of you, life, time, energy, money, to be a part and to help, a worthy cause, a good cause, a valid, legitimate cause, veterans. Real simple. So I'll update more, like I said, as we go and as we get closer out of this summer into the fall, and as we start fleshing out the particulars on what the parade's going to be, what's going to be in it, who's going to be in it, the parameters of the timeline, like what time does it start, what time does it finish, how many entries, all of that. So all that in a long-winded way from, we're not on the air this Thursday because I've got the Veterans Day Parade, and I'll share more of it as we go forward after this week, once we have this next meeting. So plenty there. Again, thank you all for being here. We're really just going to do two items tonight. And I don't want to say it's just like going to be short and out, but 2 items, a little more compact and concise. So the obvious and the simple, and I don't want to, before we move on to it, as the title says, Trumpstein War, a reality TV clown show. And as I thought about that, and I was putting into those terms today, as I punched in the title, that is in essence what we are at, what we've come to, where we are with the war, and with American lives. Because when we go to war, American lives are at stake. Whether you believe it or not, or whether you know it or not, American lives are always at stake. If we're starting or picking a fight or going to war and willing to start fights and kill other people, then they're going to do the same to us, or try to. And we do know that we've already lost. I want to say it was 14, 15 Americans that we know of, because I'm going to safely guess that there may be some deaths and casualties that we're not aware of yet, that haven't been numbered yet for different reasons. But lives, American lives, in my opinion, in my view, are being played with and toyed with in a reality TV clown show. So that's one. And then 2, because I'm tired of even having to think of, and I know most people are, then I'll say it, the majority of people in America are tired of Trump's shit and who he is and what he does as president of the United States. The majority of people are tired of it. And I'm not going to hear any garbage and bullshit about, this many people voted for him. And as I've stipulated and stated more than a few times, the majority of this country did not vote for Donald Trump. The majority of the voters on that day, or that window, voted for Donald Trump, and he won. Okay, but the overwhelming percentage, 70-something million, whatever the hell the number was, is not the majority of this country. And even some of them now are not for the things that Donald Trump is doing now, that he got back into office and the rails are off and he can do whatever the hell he wants. Because what are they going to do? Stop him? Get rid of him? Impeach him? Kick him out of office before the time's up? No, and no. So we're quite literally saddled with this shit until it's done. And it's literally like strap in and hold on and hope you survive. So that's one. But 2, I'm taking, and I was going to say solace, S-O-L-A-C-E. I was going to take some solace and some comfort, and dare I say enjoyment or respite from that crap, from this nasty excuse of a window in our American history that is the Trump heresy. / presidency. And focus a little bit and spend a little time on, and maybe let's do this. I think I'm going to do that first. Let me go inverse order here. I'm going to do that first, and we're going to start with what I call a summer of sport. A summer of sport. because of, and this is real simple, okay, because of the World Cup in and of itself, and because it is the most engaged and most watched, most paid attention to sporting event, on the planet. It is happening now, middle of summer. We're about to wrap up, but it is roughly during the middle of summer. And you're combining that and aggregating these various other instances or times or sports all at the same time. And it becomes a really awesome summer of sport. So generically, what we all kind of know in America anyway, summer is baseball, boys of summer, right? So summer's baseball, and we're right in the middle. We're just past the halfway point. And tonight, as a matter of fact, I think right now, as we sit here, is the All-Star game. I'm recording. I'll watch a little later. But yesterday was the Home Run Derby, which was kind of cool. I don't always watch it, but I did watch it this time. They changed the rules a little bit, and I think the rules are for the better. They don't have as much of a time line for the batters to get in and swing. They're letting the batters swing at their pace. And for the record, it's not like the batter's sitting there saying, I'm going to take a drink and kick back for 5 minutes before I take the next swing. They're not doing that. So I think the rules that they implemented for this year's Home Run Derby, and basically it's passed because it was last night, I think that worked out better. I think it was better and I think they're going to use this same set of rules for next year's Home Run Derby and hopefully going forward. I like the way the rules are set up. I like you get X amount of swings, and like the format, you got to get X amount of, homers in the first round, top 4 move on to the next, then you're in a semifinal, et cetera. Then you get to a final, et cetera. Okay, so you get an X amount of balls. You don't have a time limit on when you have to swing. I really like that, and I think that benefited the overall competition. And so I watched it, and I think that the general, or more importantly, the chalk or the smart money was on Kyle Schwarber, who currently leads the league in homers right now at 32. He's got more than everybody else in the league. He's leading the league. And the smart money, normally the chalk would be on Kyle Schwarber, and it was. Betting odds were on Kyle Schwarber. And so he made it to the final against a young dude from St. Louis. His name is Jordan Walker. Then long story short, Jordan Walker beats him, but it was more about the way Jordan Walker did it than anything else. So I did watch it all. Again, first time I've seen it. I've actually sat down and watched the All-Star game in a while, or the Home Run Derby first. And it was pretty cool. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, he literally, you're counting numbers, right? Okay, he's got 10 more swings left to hit these homers in, and he's running out of homers because he's behind Schwarber, who hit, I want to say 10 or 11 in the first when he came up in the final, because Schwarber went first and then Walker was to follow. But Schwarber hits a 10 or 11, and Walker immediately is like, oh, okay, wait a minute. He's not going to have the math to do this. And then he falls behind, and he doesn't have enough swings on paper to make up for the run or the homers that Schwarber has. But I think they call it the magenta ball. So it's a different colored ball that they throw. If you hit it out, then you get another one. So it can be your last ball, meaning the last ball the last swing that you're offered. But if you hit it out, you get another one. So you may be on your last one, but if you hit it out, they give you another one. And so the dude literally did that. And I think I want to say on his last, what amounted to was his last 6 swings. And again, no margin for error, right? Because he was behind. He didn't have enough swings. But on his last 6 swings, he took it out. He hit the ball out. He hit a homer. And so every time he did that, they gave him another ball, even though he was technically out of balls, out of being thrown any more swings. They gave him another one, and he hit it out, and another one, and he hit it out. And then the numbers start climbing, and he's at 9, and then he's up to 10, and then he's going to catch Schwarber. Then he gets to catching Schwarber, and and this whole time, by the way, he literally has to hit it out or he loses, like 5 in a row. If he didn't hit it out, he loses. And he did that 6 straight times, including the very last one which he knocks out, and he beats Schwarber by 1. It was pretty cool. I haven't seen, clearly I haven't seen all the All-Star Game home run derbies. I've watched a few here and there. I watched the one a couple years ago with Teoscar Hernandez because he's a Dodger. Watched that. He won that. But I don't watch it all the time, and I did this time. And I think I'm going to go so far as to say it may be the best home run derby I think I've ever seen. It was kind of cool the way they structured the format. Schwarber being in front of his home crowd in Philadelphia at the game. It was his home crowd. Crazy, but the Philly fans were booing the other guy. They want him to lose, so they booed him, right? And they're all over him. But anyway, it worked out. It was for the young guy. Impressive. I didn't know so much about him. I know he's on the leaderboards for MLB for a variety of reasons, for hitting different things, RBI, homers, etc. But he's got a smooth swing, really smooth, easy power, easy knockout homers. So my point is, I think maybe I'll be watching a little more Jordan Walker. You get attention by doing something like that. And again, he beat Schwarber, and that was the chalk. That was the money that was supposed to win. So awesome home run derby. So what you know about baseball is we're the boys of summer. It's in summertime. So watching baseball, enjoyed that. And then that's my whole point to all of this to begin this show tonight to, as we're into it. I enjoyed watching the home run derby, like actually enjoyed it. I didn't have to hear a damn thing about Trump and his bullshit. I just got to watch people playing baseball and doing cool shit. And don't we all want that? I mean, seriously, unless you're in the Trump cult and you want him involved in your goddamn marriage, you want him involved in your damn soup. I don't. I liked it when the president popped up once in a while, a State of the Union. We listened to that. We went back. I liked it when my president wasn't in the news every goddamn night. I liked it when the president just did their goddamn job and I didn't have to worry about bullshit. So it was fun. It was nice to be able to watch the All-Star Game home run derby last night and not have to think, hear, or worry about the fat orange trader in the Oval Office. 2, also during the summer, not every 4 years, obviously, just these others are annual, but Wimbledon just wrapped up. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a big Wimbledon fan. I'm a tennis fan in general, but obviously Wimbledon's the big one. I do try as much as I can to watch all 4 of the major Grand Slams: Wimbledon, the French Open at Roland Garros, the Australian Open, and then obviously the U.S. Open in New York. I try to watch all of them, and I try to keep track. And I've followed Novak Djokovic since he first came up when he started, and I made the claim that I thought, and for the record, going back to this time window, I was a big Pete Sampras fan a long time ago. Love Pete Sampras. Love that dude. And then you got Roger Federer, who kind of owned the court for a long time there. And then you had the rise of Rafael Nadal. And then on the tail end of that, you got Novak Djokovic. And I thought when I first saw Djokovic, the very first time I watched him in a Grand Slam, I said, this guy might end up being the best of all of them. And I'm a Sampras fan. And so you know the deal. Basically, Sampras had like 14, 15 Grand Slams. Federer comes along and basically eclipses him. I think he had 22, I want to say. I'm getting my numbers a little screwed up because I've been watching as much lately. But I knew that Djokovic would eventually pass all of them. Sampras, Federer, Nadal, and now he's at the top. And he's on the back end. He did make it to a semifinal, but he's at the back end. He's older, but still doing it. But now there's another group, and I think that's set now. Over the last 2 years, it's kind of set that the younger group is now in charge. They're going to win more. Carlos Alcaraz, this year's winner and last year's winner, Jannik Sinner of Italy. He's the one that beat and took out Novak Djokovic in the semifinal in straight sets, knocked him out. And then went on to win the final against, I want to say it's Zverev, a Russian, on the gentleman's side, Russian tennis player, knocked him out. And so Jannik Sinner won last year and he won this year. So he's got back-to-back and he's pretty talented and good. Do I think he's going to end up, winning more Grand Slams than Djokovic or the others? No, I don't think so. But for right now, it's father time catching up with everybody. And right now it's a new man's game that way. And so for the record, let's put on Linda Noskova. I hope I got that right. She's from the Czech Republic, and she won on the ladies' side. She is new. This is her first time, and I want to say this is like the fourth time in a row where we've had a different female champion at Wimbledon. And so on the ladies' side, not to give short shrift on the ladies' side, but in the equal time here, on the ladies' side, it's been a new champ, and there's just a lot of parity and disparity in the talent of the ladies. There's a different winner every year at Wimbledon, at least, right? This isn't back in the older days, in the teens at least, when Serena Williams was just dominating and crushing everybody and winning everything like over and over and over again. There's much more diversity in that talent now, and more equity and parity in the quality of the champions now. So Linda Noskova, I think she's Czech Republic. She's this year's Wimbledon champ, to go along with Jannik Sinner. I watched a little bit of the semi with Djokovic for Sinner, and I watched a little bit of the ladies final on the Saturday. And, I just appreciative, right? I appreciate the sport. I wish I could have done tennis. It's pretty cool. It's a hell of a sport. It's you got to be, you got not just athletic, but bright, talented, and capable, and really, really experienced. You have to have been doing it your entire life. And you got to be good size too. Not a lot of small ones, not a lot of undersized people that are in those sports. I'll point out real quick before I move on from Wimbledon for 2026. Alcaraz had won, and I haven't been paying as much attention to him, but he was kind of the rising star to supplant Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer even further back. And Alcaraz, he's from Spain, Carlos Alcaraz. He won in 23 and 24. And Jannik Sinner has won 20, 25, and 26. So I'm not sure, if that's going to continue, or if Alcaraz manages to get back, into that category. I'll say this. I don't think Alcaraz is as much of a specialist on Wimbledon grass as, for instance, Nadal was on clay at Roland Garros. He's not. I mean, his game is it's suited to all courts, but he's a little more suited, or has a better time, not on necessarily the grass at Wimbledon, maybe Roland Garros and a couple other places he plays better. So we'll see, with some of the other Grand Slams that go on. We still have later, the U.S. Open. The Aussie Open is earlier in the year, and the U.S. Open comes after Wimbledon. So we'll see more on that end. But, so there's your, if you're a Supermax Nation member, you don't know nothing about these sports. This is my time to educate you. And as I said, with baseball in the All-Star game, I really do enjoy the simplicity and the peace of just watching good sport. And I will say this to you, and maybe some of you can empathize and understand or sympathize with me. It's nice to just be able to watch a sport and not have to think of the politics and the bullshit that goes on. I mean, it really is, a time where you don't have to have your mind in those ugly spaces of the negative that goes on, and just watch for enjoyment and some peace. That to me is the peace, right? Just watching people exert themselves for their goal. The humanity of it, the human interest of it, the human emotion and the energy involved in someone willing themselves to be the best at what it is they do, to commit themselves to that venture, that instance in their life that they give everything that they have, because it doesn't last forever. As most sports do, you can't last forever in those sports. We'll get to some of that a little bit later. Baseball, Wimbledon. And again, Wimbledon just wrapped up this past weekend, but it's roughly, a fortnight, a couple weeks, went on this entire, summer into July. And also right now, the Tour de France is on right now. So the tour started, I want to say about a week and a half ago. And I've always tried to watch, and I have been watching for a long time, the Tour de France. Interesting quick side note that kind of hooked me a little bit more. So when I was in the Army in Germany, I took a trip with some friends of mine in my unit, and we traveled to France because one of my buddies in my unit, in my squad, his name was Brule. I can't remember his first name. It was Brule, Brule, Brule. My platoon sergeant called him Brule. Hey there, Brule. But his name was Brule, and he was a Frenchman. He was a natural, born and French citizen, but he joined our army because he wanted to be a U.S. citizen, which I think is fucking awesome. I really do. I've said that a bunch of times. If you're willing to fight and die for my country, you're American. All right. You're a goddamn American. If you're willing to fight and die for our principle, if you're willing to lace up those boots and strap up and willing to give your life for this country in uniform, you're American. Now, I don't give a shit what your immigrant status is. I don't give a shit. If you're willing to fight and die for this country and the principles upon which it was founded, you're American. So anyway, then my buddy Brule, he was literally from Paris, and his mom and his sister lived in Paris. So he was going to go back and visit, and me and a couple buddies of mine went with him. So it was roughly, I don't want to say it was a full week. It was like a week into the weekend, a handful of days, maybe not quite a week, maybe 4 or 5 days. That was a while ago. 89, I want to say. So either way, but my point in bringing it all up to having to do with the Tour de France was I was in France, in Paris, as the Tour de France was wrapping up. And the Sunday that we were supposed to leave and finish our little vacation, soldiers do get to take some vacation time, a little bit. When you get 30 days of leave for a year, and then you get to spend it how you need to, if you're approved and if it's okay with your unit, meaning they don't need you. So I was in France, went with my buddy Brule. We went to Paris to visit his mom and his sister, and got to taste the nightlife a little bit. Actually ate at a McDonald's in Paris. And for all of you Pulp Fiction fans out there laughing about the Royale with cheese, it is true, a Royale with cheese. That's the Big Mac. So we were in Paris, and on that Sunday, the last Sunday, we were supposed to leave Sunday night to come back, to our unit in Germany. But I wanted to go. My other buddies, like Brule, didn't care. It wasn't that big a deal to him. My other buddies really didn't give a damn about cycling, but I did. And I wanted to be and see on the Champs-Élysées. I wanted to see the finish, because for those of you that don't know, the Tour de France finishes in Paris on the last day, the final, on the Champs-Élysées, the main thoroughfare, the avenue, the boulevard that is world famous, and then right down the center of Paris. So on the Champs-Élysées, they finish and they wrap up, and that's the final to the race, the last stage of the race, and they finish there, and then they have the ceremony. I wanted to see that. And as you've gathered by now, as you listen to my tone and look at my face, for those of you viewing, I wanted to see that. But as a young dude is wont to do, and as young friends are wont to do, they didn't care so much. I wanted to. What they wanted to do was Brule wanted to take us out and wanted to hit the Paris scene, the Paris nightlife, and go clubbing. And we did. And it was something. It's a once in a lifetime deal. I think, what was I, 19? I think I was not quite 19, maybe even 18. Wow. Either way, I was a young dude, right, fresh into the army, and I wanted to watch the Champs-Élysées finale for the Tour de France. And I didn't make it because I was asleep and hungover the next day from the Saturday night partying. So we didn't even get up till late afternoon, and it was all over by then. And then we literally staggered to our train, got on, and went back home to Germany. So that's a true story. And I'm not like bragging about it. I wanted to go watch the finale. I wanted to watch the final stage. Didn't get to. But when you think about it in hindsight, it was a long, long time ago, for the record, 30 plus. Another few years, and it'll be close to 40 years ago. No regrets. I wished I could have seen it. I didn't. But my point is, I've been a fan of the Tour de France since and then. Greg LeMond, the American that won the Tour. Kind of like sucked me into the Tour and that Americans can be good. And let me fast forward to this, obviously, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. And then after I got out and I watched the Lance Armstrong tours every year religiously for the 6 in a row that he won. And I mean religiously, I watched every day. The Tour de France is roughly every day for 3 weeks, roughly, with the day off here or there, roughly 2 days off. A time trial, 2 or 3 time trials, depending on the race construction. But for the most part, it's 22, 23 stages, 3 weeks of some of the most grueling, physically demanding work that athletes do on the planet. That's my appreciation for it, by the way. That's why I liked it. Is I tried to ride a bike. We even kind of did that on another trip. I tried to ride into some mountains and it tore me up, blew me up. If you're a cyclist, you know what that means. It just blew me up. The oxygen was just not there for it. Couldn't do it. It's just insane. The levels of fitness and the levels of cardio that these guys have, the level of muscular endurance in those legs that they have and the lungs is like superhuman. So I have a massive appreciation for it. And so I love it, right? So I love the Tour de France. Anyway, long story short, so I did watch, and I've watched off and on for the most part, not as much over the last handful of years, but prior to that, for sure, almost I tried to. And there's a window there where I was literally getting on my stationary bike through iFit, and because they had, I don't know if they have it anymore, but they had the contract with the Tour de France officially. And for the record, this isn't, the other one, the Peloton. That's different. Okay, iFit and what was Nordic Track, I believe, had the contract with the Tour itself, meaning the race. So they had the ability to get the Tour de France as a program for your stationary bicycle. So what that means is I could ride stage 13 of 2018's Tour in every stage of it, like officially, on your stationary bike. Little screen, it tells you where you are. It gives you a visual. You're in the pack with everybody else. So I really, really like that. And that's why I went with iFit, because they had the contract with the Tour. I don't even know if they have it anymore, but I never went with Peloton because Peloton is just a name. It's the name for the members of the Tour that are riding the group. It's a French name for it. But let's just say, long story short, I've enjoyed the Tour, and I have a monster appreciation for the athleticism that it requires, that really a lot of people do not understand the superhuman requirement of a body that is needed to be a bicyclist, a biker in the Tour de France at that level. It's just insane and nuts. So just to wrap real quick, they're like, I want to say stage 13, 14. So they've got maybe about a little over a week and a half left. Right now, running the show is a young dude by the name of Tadej Pogačar. He is Slovenian. I want to say Slovakian. It's Slovenia, the country, but he's Slavic because a lot of the countries in Eastern Europe have been busted up for a long period of time. They're different names, etc. He's Slavic. The country is Slovenia. And so on that side, he's won, I want to say he's going on his 4th or 5th. He's still fairly young. He's in his mid-20s. And he's a stud. He's like special. There's a good possibility he may go down as the greatest all time, and without doping, without cheating, like Armstrong did, which I don't want to get into because I was with that dude, supported him, watched him, believed in him. And then we find out all the other shit. And so I have no mercy for anybody that way. I got nothing for that dude anymore. So Tadej Pogačar, Slovenian. The reason I'm giving you all these names is to kind of educate you a little bit if you don't know anything about them and learn about them. There's nothing wrong with it. These are the best of the best at what they do in their respective fields. And that's always good, regardless, right? You don't have to know it. You don't have to love it, be in it. But a little information, intelligence, and education doesn't hurt. So know who they are. Tadej Pogačar. And just for the record, I want to mention the gentleman that's right behind him right now. Tade is leading the tour. He's probably going to win it again. He's already 3.5 minutes. That's a big lead. He's already 3.5 minutes over his biggest competitor, who has been his biggest competitor for about 4 or 5 years now. That young man's name is Jonas Vingegaard. He is Danish. He is a badass in and of himself. And if it weren't for Pogačar, we'd be talking about Vingegaard as like an all-time great, winning multiple tours in a row. But it just so happens that he happens to be competing at the same time as the other. And so my point to you is, this is a special moment in the history of the Tour de France, because you have two of the greatest ever doing it at the same time, competing against each other. And that's always great, because you want people to bring out the best in you. If you're a competitor, if you're an athlete, you're in a competition, I don't want some scrub. I want the best. Because when I whoop that ass, I want to know I beat the best. I don't want to beat some dude that doesn't belong there. I don't want to beat some guy that isn't good. I don't want to beat some guy that got there because they snuck in. I want to beat the best. That is when you know you're at your best. You don't hide. Don't make it easy. That's my life. That's the way I believe. I've never gotten the easy road. I like it the harder way, because when I smack that ass and whoop it, yeah, I'll know that it's mine and I earned it. So Tadej Pogačar, Slovenian, and Jonas Vingegaard, he is Danish. Two of the best to ever do it, and they're competing right now. If you had a chance, take a look. I'm asking you to a little bit, but the tour is going on right now. There's still about a week and a half left. Plenty of time to get it, paying attention to this. So these are all right now, by the way. This is all summer. That's why I said the summer of sport. This is my summer of sport. Let's move on. And I've got a couple more. I'm running a little long here, but I'm enjoying this time, by the way. And as I said with the prior, with baseball, with Wimbledon, the tour, I thoroughly enjoy. I really, really appreciate the murder that they put their bodies through, the legs and the lungs. The legs and the lungs, what they do to their bodies is just absolutely insane to me. I couldn't do it, can't do it. I've tried in some ways, but that takes a lifetime's worth of work, by the way. It's not like I'm going to be able to do it overnight or in a day or two or a year. But I know enough about the riding to know that kind of pain and what it could be. And that's what I appreciate of it. So Tour de France, and let's move on to the World Cup. So today, as of today, and I don't know where you all are, everybody's got their team. And I do love that about the World Cup. I want to say like the viewership is like some crazy 8 or 9, billion views or whatever. It's just nuts. It really is the world's sport. It is. This is the sport that draws more attention globally than any other. And we're American and we think our stuff is the greatest. Obviously you get it, but it's not. And that's not me being callous or cruel or un-American. It's just fact. That is the most American thing to do, by the way, is be straight-laced and tell the damn truth. That's American. But more views, more attention, more global interest than any other sport on the planet. We are down to the final 3 because as of today, Spain beat France 2-0. And tomorrow is Argentina and England. And that's a little different. Most of you should know that Argentina won it 4 years ago. So they're the reigning and defending World Cup champions. And they'll be facing off against England to defend their title. So if Argentina wins, they'll get into the final with Spain and they'll try to defend their title and go back to back. That hasn't happened in a long time. I don't know the exact year amount, but it has been a long time since that has happened. So my point in bringing it up is like, I kind of have a thing for Germany because I think I may have already said this on air, but I was in Germany. And you're noticing something there, obviously. The things that affect you when you're young, the things that get into your mind and your psyche early on in a life stay with you. So the Tour de France for me, from that time, and I want to say 89, when I was in France and that I used to watch bicyclists. And then in 90, when the Germans won the World Cup in the 90 edition of the World Cup. It was 90. And that was awesome. And I became a fan of German soccer, football, because I liked the way they played. They were like a machine. There was no super stud star. They had good people. Obviously, they had stars at different teams in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich and, some of the others. But it was more about the totality of their team. And I've got a segue here in a second, but the totality of their team and how they went about their business, how they played the game, how they played the football is what I fell in love with. Machine-like, mechanical, efficient, no wasted effort, no wasted motion. And then when they're breaking you, and as they've broken you, they score and they put you away. They're not flashy. They weren't, all this other cool stuff. They were just methodical, machine-like, and they broke you. And I love that. I just absolutely love that. So that was Germany. So obviously Germany had an early exit. Brazil had an early exit. Italy's not even in the thing. Those are all the traditional powers from the past. So even though Germany's still my team, kind of, obviously US because I'm American, but Germany's still kind of that team for me. But as we're going into this last three right now, and I might catch some hell for it, but I'm a Spain guy for right now out of these last three. And here's why. I've been watching Spain from the group play until now. I kind of like the way they play. Like their ball control, they're efficient, their passing is nuts. They're just like they pass the ball and it's like magnetized to the next foot. They're just efficient. They're machine-like. They don't make big mistakes. That is me. And that is why I like it. And that's why I like Germany originally. I'm still a German dude. I'm not dumping them, right? But at least for this final three of what's left, I'm a Spain guy. I like the way they play. I really, really like the way they go about their business. So I'm pulling for Spain. In the other match tomorrow, so it's Argentina and England, and I'm not a homer for either one. Either way, Argentina's the defending champion. I can be okay. I kind of like Messi, like most people in general. I'm not like a superstar fan of his or anything, but got to appreciate who he is, the way he goes about it, for sure. And I do like that. But I'll say it. I wouldn't mind seeing England beat Argentina. I don't think they're going to. I think, and I could be wrong, but, I think Argentina should beat England. But I'd like to see England pull the upset. And then what you end up with is Spain and England. And you get two totally new teams that are in the final. And I kind of like that. I'd like to see that. Last World Cup, it was France and Argentina. It would be Spain and England. And as I say that, I think as my mind is like immediately calculating, that the only thing I kind of have with that is like, that's some 1588 shit. For those of you that don't know me and don't know anything about me and you're listening, what the hell is he talking about? I'm an historian. It's a 1588 thing. For those of you that don't know, Spanish Armada, the English, that was big. Anyway, you don't see that very often is my point. You don't see Spain and England getting it on at the world level. I think that would be kind of cool. The only misgiving I have about it, though, is that it would be two European teams. And all the other teams from South America, Central America, the other parts of the world are not getting in. And I do want to see that. I do. I'm not like uniformly saying, hey, remove all the good ones just because they're good. I'm not. I would just like to see the other nations raise their level to catch up. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's part of who I am. I like an underdog. I'm an underdog. I've always been an underdog. And so, again, as I said a little earlier, when I whoop that ass, when I smack that ass, I want to know is because I earned it and I got there on my own and I put someone back in their place, because as one falls, another needs to rise. So long story short, I'd like to see England win, if anything, because maybe I'll watch in Spanish on some of the Spanish stations and I can hear them talk about Inglaterra. I love the way they talk about, the way they say England. But I'd like to see Spain and England in the final. If not, it's Spain and Argentina. It's going to be a good final. There's no way that there's not going to be a good final one way or the other. It's going to be good. But even of the three, I'd like to see Spain win because of the way they play. That's it. And since it's basically two European teams and then the traditional South American power, Argentina, also a defending champ, I'd like to see something different. Spain and England would be a different match. I think that'd be different, unique. And then we get to have the fun about the Spanish and the English, and the Armada and other things. Anyway, let me finish on that point. So that's tomorrow. And then I think the game is actually played. The finals played, I think, on Sunday. So we'll know we'll have, well, okay, so by this time, no, not tomorrow. We're back on air tomorrow. Man, I think no, it'll be done. I think we'll be done. I'll know tomorrow when we're back on air tomorrow. I'll know who the finalists are for Sunday. Then the final takes place Sunday, and then we'll know who won by the Tuesday coming back on the following week's show. Okay? So enough there. I tell you what, do what you can. Post into the comment if you're listening, because I don't do this enough, but I'm going to ask this time. If you're watching or you're paying attention, comment into the YouTube chat what your team is and who do you think will win out of Argentina and England, and then what you would like for a final. Post your predictions, basically, and then give me who your team was. I'd like to see that, and I do need to get some more interaction now that we're kind of there, and I want to talk to my audience, my viewers, my members that we do have. Okay, so that's baseball, Wimbledon, Tour de France, World Cup. That is a lot of sport. That's why I called it the summer sport. I'm going to throw in this last bit of kernel, and look, and I'm already running out of time. I'm going to throw in this last bit of kernel as a kind of a goof/curve. There was a UFC fight this last weekend, and it was notable or of mention. I don't watch as much as I used to. The numbers kept climbing on what they were charging for the pay-per-view packages. I remember when it was like $20, $25. And I mean, some of those that last year, I think it was up to like 80 or 90 or some crazy amount. Just insane. Like not doing that anymore. Anyway, and I'm a mixed martial artist in general. I have practiced and trained young guys and trained myself. I'm not unfamiliar or incapable of jiu-jitsu. Obviously, I've said before, I'm a wrestling coach, former wrestler. So I'm around combat sports, and I was in the Army, and I did train, and I did some training that was hand-to-hand specific, not just because I was in the Army, but because I got additional training. So combat sports are of interest to me, and I like to watch just for the purely scientific, mechanical side of watching people do things with their body, what they're capable and their capabilities are. So of note this last weekend, Conor McGregor, who was coming back after a long layoff, who was, clearly one of the best UFC fighters ever in terms of titles, champions, et cetera, notoriety, attention, et cetera. And he's coming back after a long layoff doing other things. He was in some movies. He's done other things. I've never really disliked or liked the guy. He's just kind of what he is, right? He's part of the process. I can respect the fight that he's got. But he basically went out in the first round against Max Holloway, Max Holloway's, I think, wants to say younger, but he's more current. Or they're roughly around the same age, but Max Holloway's more current because he didn't step away from UFC and fighting. He's been in it the entire time. Won the baddest motherfucker, belt. Remember when he beat Gaethje? That was crazy. The stand in the middle, let's throw down kind of thing. Really liked that. That was good. So it was him and Holloway. And like literally, I don't even think like X amount of seconds, it didn't last. McGregor tried to throw, tried to land a bit of a kick, a leaping kick, and came down awkwardly. And I don't quote me yet because I got to go read a little bit more. Those of you that do know, share it, please. But I think it was his knee that was tweaked or damaged in the jump as he came down. And I'll never forget it because I did watch a little bit, like a YouTube piece afterward. I think it was Bisping, a former fighter as well. And he was rough. He just said, "Hey, you can't be doing that anymore." And in his English accent, "You can't be doing that anymore, mate. You're not 22, right? You can't be jumping around, flying kicks. Your body's not able. Your mind thinks you are capable, but your body's telling you, hey, we can't do that shit anymore." And I'm on the back end. I'm getting in the back end of my 50s, so there are things that I have to acknowledge that I can no longer do. I'm still quite capable physically. But then again, there we go, right? Age-wise, you just keep believing you are. And the body is not accustomed to those things anymore because you don't do them anymore. And I think that's quite the case with the McGregor fight. He has not been doing those things the same way for a long time, by the way, because he had a long layoff too. So the body is not able. The mind may be willing, but your body is not able. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just called father time. And last I checked, he whoops everybody's ass. Last I checked, anyway. So that was this weekend, just as a kind of aside. So all this is going on, a summer of sport. And so some of you can tell including those that normally watch me and view me and do so religiously. Nothing but love for you and appreciation. A lot of my friends and family that watch and pay attention to what I'm doing, nothing but love for you, because I at least for this, went a little longer than I intended, but for this last half hour or so, I've talked about the sports that interest and move me and that give me enjoyment. And as I'm sure some of you have figured out, clearly I'm not just spitting on these sports because, I'm a fair weather fan. These sports in particular, these athletic events and engagements, they are of unique interest to me going back a long, long time, decades. So decades of interest on my part and paying attention and wanting, just appreciating, what it is the human body and mind can accomplish when pushed to those limits of an experience in your body, what you're physically capable of. So that's my summer of sport. That I hope shares a little bit with you on some of my interests, but they're well worth the interest in general. The biking by itself, like I said, now Wimbledon I love. The World Cup, obviously, because everybody does when the time comes. And then baseball, because it's ongoing. And for the record, baseball was going on before these others that I named, and baseball will still be going on long after these others are done, because baseball will go down obviously deep into September and then obviously October for those that are that far. But baseball, I have found a renewed love of interest in baseball over the last handful of years, in particular because of Shohei Ohtani, in particular because of the Los Angeles Dodgers, which, and I've said this before, were the only team that my father, that died when I was a boy, obligated me to in interest. He didn't make me a Lakers fan. He didn't make me a Rams fan because we were all from SoCal. But he did make me a Dodger fan. So my interest, obviously, on the baseball side is because of that. And I've gotten more enjoyment out of baseball, even though I never really got to do it myself. But I appreciate the sport itself, love watching it, love the engagement of it. And as I stated already, this is a special time in Dodger baseball, even if you're not a Dodger fan, nothing personal. I don't like taking shots at other teams just because they're other teams. I'll just state a fact. It is a special time in Dodger baseball in general, and baseball in particular, because of Shohei Ohtani and what he is doing. He is a unique individual. All the superlatives and all the adjectives and all the things that are descriptive of him. He's a unicorn. He's the only player to ever hit and pitch at this level in the history of the game, even more so than Babe Ruth, who everybody knows is literally on the Mount Rushmore of baseball. But it's the humility, it's the discipline, it's the work ethic, it's the fact that he gives a shit about more than just himself as an athlete. It's about the fact that he's giving up money, even though he could have been the wealthiest player on the planet. He's literally only taking $2 million a year and giving up 60 something a year so that the team can build and be better. There's so much right about this dude. It's not even funny. And he's even got a cool little dog. Okay. So those are my interests. You got them all, you know them all. And I'll be more engaged. I'm not going to say I'm this engaged in baseball for the rest of my life. That's not going to be the case, because I know what happens to me. My mind goes in other places and I go at it full. And I have to take energy from something and move it to another. And that's going to happen here now, soon, and going forward. I'll still watch baseball, and I'll still be engaged deep with Shohei while he's a Dodger as he finishes his career. But I know that once that tapers off, I won't be able to do it the same way, because I'll be involved in doing other things that require that kind of attention and energy. But again, it's a special time. And for those of you out there, this is my summer of sports. So let me wrap up. It went longer than I wanted to just on the sport. And as I said a little bit earlier, maybe you could tell because I'm enjoying this summer of sport. And watch this, and appreciating this summer of sport. I think maybe now more than I ever have, because I'm older and because of the unique political time that we are engaged in and living in right now. And I think all of you can understand that. I think all of you can agree with that. We, regular people, need something to take our mind off the garbage and the bullshit that the rapist, racist traitor is pulling day to day in our Oval Office with our taxpayer dollars. We need that. Now, before I wrap up, I'm not saying that you lose yourself in that. I'm saying you use it and you understand it, appreciate it, make it a part of who you are. You need that release. You need that positive energy. You need that appreciation. You're human. But you do not let that dissuade you, remove you, hinder you, blind you from the things that are going on that are not good for this country. You balance those things. If you're a good American, you balance those things. You understand there are things that we need to change, we need to be better about, we need to do something about, while still enjoying and still finding life, liberty, and the pursuit of fucking happiness. How about that? Yeah. Literally written into our founding documents, plural. Not just the Declaration of Independence, but into our Constitution. Read the Federalist Papers, read other documentation by our founding fathers as they were crafting what would become these United States. It's part of who we are. It's our makeup. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being all up in that and being that. Okay? So enjoy sport, enjoy entertainment, but do not let it blind you, hinder you from the things that we need to do as an American people to take this fucking country back to what it's supposed to be, to what we idealize it as. Okay? Last comment. And I was going to spend time on it, but now where I'm at, I don't want to, because I've enjoyed this window, this time, this sharing with you, my viewer, my audience, things that make me tick, things that make me feel good, things that entertain me, things that I appreciate, things that I have respect for, things that I enjoy. I've shared that with you tonight. However, at the top of the show and in the show's title, be clear, be clear-eyed, and be unequivocal in approach when it comes to understanding that this Trump-Stein war, this Trump war started because of the Jeffrey Epstein files and the bad press and the bad negative. This Trump-Stein war has become and is a reality TV clown show. Quote that, write it down, because that's what it is. On again, off again. We're firing at them, they're firing at us. We took shots at them, we took shots. Asshat stupid. And as I'm going to finish here, and as I've said every single time that I've mentioned this stupid ass war started by a president that has no clue as to what service is to this country and serving the people, its people. This Trump-Stein war is illegal, unconstitutional, and incompetent in every way imaginable. And as I've shared more than a few times, the good friend of mine, Donald, the racist, rapist, lard ass, sack of shit, Trump, will be studied in history books in the future as the blueprint for how not to be a president. And lastly, he will also be studied as the blueprint for, in American history, how not to conduct a war, how not to start a war, how not to endanger American lives because of whim or whimsy. That is what you'll see. We'll be back tomorrow. Join me tomorrow. We'll do a little bit more, have a little more fun, maybe some other stuff too. And then we'll go off into the weekend, but we'll be back tomorrow, not on the Thursday. So tomorrow night, this time, 6:30. Nothing but love for you. I'll see you tomorrow. Look forward to you being here. Have a good night.